Welcome to the Derm-It Trotter Don't Swear About Skincare podcast. This is an exciting day. I've got Morgan Benson here with me today. Believe it or not, she's on the podcast because of her dad, but not the way you think. We were talking at dinner and he told me how she's a tattoo artist and I said, we have got to have her on. People need to know more about tattooing. She's been doing it for about 6 years and her studio is Hollow Earth. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's exciting to have you here because tattooing is something people are really interested about, and you're showing us from the other side. We talk about it on the dermatology side, how we handle it, how we approach patients, they're asking us questions, but I want to talk more about, from your perspective, like to become a tattoo artist, like what's that process even entail?
Yeah, so for starters, you need to find a mentor, which is someone that's been in tattooing for years, and you get an apprenticeship. And there's not a handbook to an apprenticeship. There's no guidelines. So basically your mentor will kind of decide when you're ready, but it's usually anywhere between 6 months and 2 years. You learn how to draw, which is kind of the basic.
Yeah.
First and foremost, let's see your portfolio if you can draw. And then you kind of follow your mentor around, follow him around the studio, you find out how to make stencils, you find out hygienics and what you need to be cautious about. And then when your mentor thinks that you're ready, you do your first tattoo. And it's the most nerve-wracking thing.
Who volunteers for that?
It's a loved one.
A loved one?
A loved one that
love
loves you very much. And it's usually just a black tattoo. I think mine was a tree, like a little pine tree. Just something simple to kind of break the ice.
Yeah.
And you can practice on fake skin too, which is usually just like a rubber kind of pad, just to get the feel of the machine. And then you kind of graduate from your apprenticeship and you're out in the world on your own.
So it's pretty informal from what it sounds like, and there's no standardization. It's really up to who's your mentor, right? So is there like a well-known group of potential mentors? Like if you go somewhere regionally, like you're here in Ohio, so you kind of know who are good mentors, or could you be in a different state potentially or somewhere else and go wherever you want to be after? Yeah,
so tattoo laws change by county. It's not even by state. So everywhere is really different. I think kind of a safe way to go about it is just being with someone that has a lot of experience, and typically it's a shop owner. Somebody that is confident and knows what they're talking about and has, I would say, 10 years at least under their belt. Yeah.
So if you were wanting to be a tattoo artist and came up and can't draw, is it kind of ruin the dream, or can you get away with stencils or other things that people could do, or do you really need to have that inherent talent?
I think it helps. I think it can definitely be learned. I think drawing, and especially if you want to be a realism artist and you just need to learn how to copy an image, obviously that takes a lot of skill and talent, but it can be learned because there's tricks and tips and lighting, and you learn how to do, textures. If you've ever seen a realism tiger or a lion tattoo, those are skills that you learn. But there's also a lot of different tattoo styles. So if you want to do color or if you want to do abstract, having that artistic background definitely helps, because you kind of already know what you're capable of.
So when you talk about those tattoo styles, I mean, I wouldn't even know that there's different styles. And full disclosure, I do have a tattoo, but I wouldn't even have known. I would not have even known. This was like a bonding thing between my best friend and I that we did, back in the day.
Okay.
But I wouldn't even know styles or what to choose. I mean, I think we just looked at pictures and said, that one, right? And we picked it together. So can you talk about what are the different styles? We mentioned the realism. I would have no idea what that means in the context of, and I don't know if most clients come in, if they even know. They're just like, hey, I want this.
I want a tattoo.
And this is what I found the picture. Maybe they look if you have a catalog, but what are these different styles of tattoos?
So I think that that's something that's happened more recently, because I've only been in the game for 6 years. So I think I've entered during a time where you can be very specific, not just the style, but even the subject matter, because there are people that will only do botanical tattoos. And then you have to get into the nitty gritty. Do they do color botanical or do they do black and gray botanical?
So they only do plant,
they can. There are people that only do plants. like
so it's like
all
vegetarian tattoo artist.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, right. Only vegan. All of the artists at this shop kind of have their own distinct style.
Cool. Okay.
If you look, I know the camera can't see, but the owner of the shop, his name is Nathan Marty, and he does the dark arts.
Ooh.
So he just does skulls and these monsters, but they're gorgeous. My coworker Rusty only does black and gray portraiture. So he's very good at doing realism. And each artist kind of finds their niche. And I think it's really cool because back in the day, I think it was just you walk in, you say that's what you want, and that's what you get. But now there's so much collaboration that goes on between a client and an artist. And I think it's really special because you come out with something that's so unique and that's refined, because there's a lot of like nuance to that style. So
which I think makes it more unique and special.
It does,
not only for the artist but for the client,
the person,
actually getting it, which I think is fascinating, because I mean I was the catalog person, or like just what this is what we decided to get.
Yeah, just more from the book.
Excellent, very cool. So one of the things you mentioned is how tattooing is regulated. I think that's probably what a lot of our listeners want to know. They're thinking about a tattoo. They're wondering, okay, I want to go to the studio, but who's sort of overseeing the studio to make sure that they are upheld to all the sanitation standards and that it's a safe place for me to actually go? So I wanted to have you talk more about that, because you mentioned it at the local level.
Yeah, so we are inspected every year by the health inspector, which is usually right around the first of the year. I think ours is going to be in February. And they're basically looking for the basic sanitation, right? They're going to also check all of our inks and needles and make sure that they're not expired, because they do expire. Everybody has to have their bloodborne pathogens certificate and their first aid certificate up to date. We have to do a test and renew those once a year. And then as far as your own research or going into a shop and kind of checking it out, there should always be a certification or a sticker or something that has a date on it that says this store has passed the health inspection for year 2005 or 2025, 2026. Ours is on our front door, so that's the first thing that you see before you even come into the shop. As far as looking on your own, you always want to make sure that your tattoo artist is changing their gloves. They should never be putting gloves on, touching something else, and then touching your skin. I go through, and it's not very eco-friendly sometimes. That I hate to see it at the end of the day, but it's to protect our clients, constantly changing our gloves. What else could you look for? Obviously, just a clean space. People, when you go in somewhere.
You have an amazing studio here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very happy here.
Yeah, because I feel like, that's what people want to know. And like you mentioned, it's more at a local level. So what we do here in Franklin County, Ohio, could be very different in another county here in Ohio, correct? And then another state, obviously, too.
Correct.
But it sounds like what you're really highlighting, too, is that transparency. Like, you should be able to ask, they should be able to show it to you, and more importantly, probably the reputable places put it out in front and center, right?
Exactly.
They highlight that they've been inspected, they've got the seal of approval, so they're up to like best practices for 100%. Sanitation.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And I think that'll give people that faith, that people are doing this, even though it's not some sort of like big federal or state law, but they know locally that things are being managed so that they can feel secure in going in and getting that tattoo. Because that's probably a big hang up for people.
100%. Yeah. And when you go into your appointment, I have had clients kind of ask me what I'm doing and why, and I respect that, and I feel like you should be able to be very upfront about it. You should always open your needle cartridges in front of your client so that they can see that it is sealed and that it is sanitized and ready to go when they're in the chair, not 30 minutes before or anything. So
that's great, because that'll give people peace of mind just to kind of know how that regulation works. Perfect. All right, let's do that one. Stop. Yep. I'll make these shorter for Amanda. So I know you mentioned 6 years now coming up on tattooing, so that's exciting. But can you tell us more about your journey? Like, what got you into tattooing? I think people are probably curious, like, as a profession, like, are you somebody that artistry has always been, a part of you and a good expression, or maybe somebody that did it? I mean, because I think a lot of people might be surprised that you're a tattoo artist. Yeah. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but somebody said, she's a tattoo artist. I'm like, yeah. I said, and I have another friend who's a tattoo artist, but you would probably maybe guess that because they wear and they have on their skin a lot of outward tattoos, and it's just their expression. So I wanted people to kind of, learn more about you and what brought you to this place.
Yeah, culturally, I think it has changed a lot. I think the idea of who is a tattoo artist and their how they face is a little bit different, but I got into it because I went to art school and I always loved art, and I really liked experimenting with different mediums, and I did a lot of charcoal. That was kind of my
You can see some in the background here.
my
Beautiful
medium
pieces.
of choice. Thank you. And so after I graduated, I actually moved abroad. I went to Spain for a couple years, and I was teaching English there, and we had a four-day week schedule. So I had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. And I just started getting tattoos, and I started working on my leg sleeve, and I thought, this is really fun, and I really like this, and I became really interested in not just the art, but the connection that I was making with my artist and the other artists in the shop. Started, because I was going in every couple weeks, and they get to know you by name, and it's a community. And so I did my apprenticeship there in Madrid, and it was kind of just something to pass the time and learn a new medium, which is always exciting. I think it's exciting as an artist to be bad at something, when you first started, because I wasn't very good. And it's challenging, and you have this whole other aspect that you don't have in regular art, which is I can come back to a charcoal piece whenever I want, and I can stop and I can go do the laundry or whatever. But when you're with a person and you're having a moment of connection, and you're like I said earlier, collaborating on an idea, it's a completely different ballgame, really. So I came back and I started working at a shop. I moved to Cincinnati for about a year and started working at a shop there, and I just really liked it, and I decided to move to Columbus to be closer to my family, and I just never stopped, and I decided it was what I was going to do forever. So
I love that, because I think people are shocked sometimes, like, how does somebody get into that career, right? Or is it somebody you knew, and just how you fell into it, but how art was kind of that pathway. Because I do feel like, it really is an expression of art for so many people, and the talent that I see, especially on details and, some of the faces I've seen, or, nature scene, just the level of detail is amazing to me, amazing.
Yes.
So do you mind showing, you mentioned the leg sleeve,
Oh,
do you
yeah.
mind
Yeah, of
showing
course.
for people that can see this? This is beautiful. So what inspired
Thanks.
this?
I love scuba diving. So I started with this ship up here, and then kind of I have a lighthouse up here, and just started piecing together some aquatic stuff.
Now, did you do this to yourself, or somebody? Okay,
No.
so somebody's helping you.
Someone
with
did
this.
this,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Is
Yes.
that against like an unwritten rule? Are you allowed to tattoo your own skin?
Yeah,
Do people do that?
a lot of people have to do
Interesting.
that for their apprenticeship.
Oh,
That is
really?
a lot of. I didn't
That's a big
mention
risk
that.
if it's your own skin.
I didn't mention that because I did not do that. I did not tattoo. I
Okay.
have tattooed myself,
Yeah.
but I have not. That was not my first one.
Yeah.
But it's really helpful to start getting tattooed first to know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because it hurts.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's not super comfortable, and you do grow more compassionate. Every time I go get a piece done, I feel like I come back to my clients more compassionate. So I'm like, yeah, you want some more water, or let's take a break, or let's stretch, or something. So yeah, I just think that apart even from the art, it is just a collaborative, cool way to express yourself and help other people express themselves. So.
Well, and I think too, what you mentioned, the art piece and doing it on yourself, what a scary venture. I would be afraid to tattoo myself. And then what I think is funny too, we have a lot of patients that come through that have multiple tattoos, and we might have to actually do a biopsy, and they're like, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I am really afraid of needles.
Yeah.
And they're gonna say, you're not gonna believe me because I'm covered in tattoos. I'm like, well, you probably wanted the tattoo. The biopsy, probably don't
Probably
want.
not.
So it's
That's
okay.
a good point.
No worries. We
State
will,
of mind.
yeah, we will walk you through it. No problem. So if somebody's thinking about getting a tattoo, I have 2 staff right now that are just considering it. So maybe we'll have them back here to do their tattoos. What would you recommend, or what do you tell somebody if you're thinking about getting a tattoo? This is what you should do before you go, or choose a studio or an artist.
Yeah, well, Instagram or portfolios, websites.
Yes.
Look at people's work, because like I said earlier, everybody has the fortune right now to pick their own style and get really good at one style and feel comfortable. If somebody came to me and wanted a big colorful trad piece, I probably would say no, because that's not what I do. So definitely ask your artist, are you interested in doing this? You can send reference photos of things that you like. That way they get a good idea of what you're envisioning. I would definitely, again, social media, it's a love-hate relationship always, but it's a good tool in that sense. And even you can look at Reddit, what are those called? Threads?
Oh, yeah.
And see if people,
photos.
because people will leave honest reviews, especially when it's something this personal.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a really good way to validate or verify if an artist is going to be the right pick for you.
So definitely check to make sure they have their posting that they've been inspected. Research them, find out like what they do they do it well, get some references, see the pictures, reach out, collaborate, send images before you sort of pull the trigger. Anything else that you would recommend? Or is that a pretty good start when you get in there?
I feel like that's a pretty good start. And you can get one tattoo and maybe you like it, but it wasn't you weren't vibing well, the chemistry wasn't there, and you can go to someone else.
That's a really good point. Okay. The chemistry probably when you first. So question I want, do you do like a consult first, or like could people come in literally and say like I want this and it gets done, or do you do a little bit more sort of feel each other out before you choose to move forward? Because it's sort of for us, if we are going to do like a surgery or something, we're going to talk to the patient, go over pluses and minuses, risk benefits, make sure they're comfortable, especially if it's something cosmetic. Do you feel like it's kind of that process, or you just kind of roll into it?
It depends on what they want. Sometimes it will be a very direct, hey, I want this quote, I want it in this font. Okay, you don't really need a face-to-face consultation with that. I have a sleeve that I'm working on Friday, and it's very specific. It's all about books that she's read and that she likes, and she has very specific things from the books that she wants. So I did have her come in for a consultation because I want it to be exactly what she wants. So I think it depends on that initial email, and then some artists do consultations for every single piece, and that's fine. But I think it depends too if I know the person and it's a returning client, and I know that we have a good chemistry, and I know what they're looking for, and they know that I can deliver what they want. So I think it depends on a lot of things for a consultation.
Well, I think you've taken that relationship to the next level, because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to show up, they're just going to tattoo me, right? But I think that connection or the collaboration you keep emphasizing is something that can be a rewarding part of the experience that probably people don't even anticipate or even expect. So you mentioned, we talked about different types of tattooing. I wanted to touch upon the inks, because I think a lot of people are curious. In the dermatology space, sometimes we see potentially allergy to different types of inks, and of course people can get other reactions within tattoos that we might see even down the line years later. Can you talk more about the different types of inks, or maybe is it personal choice, or maybe it depends upon the type of tattoo that you're getting? Like, how do you actually choose inks?
Yeah, of course. The ink that I have to get from a supplier. I use something called Allegory ink, and I've always used it, and it's always worked for me. I've always liked it. There's a plethora of different inks that you can use. I think depending on the style as well will change your opinion on certain things. Color artist probably could answer that question a lot better, but I can say that there are different types of inks to the point where you can make your own, even with like a powder, and you can change the opacity of it, because if you're doing a cover up, you're going to want an ink that's not thicker necessarily, but more opaque. And so you can add a little more powder and then make it thicker, and then do your thing with the confidence of knowing that that's what you made, and
so you really customize it. Okay.
And same thing with color. My coworker Anna, I see her all the time with her little mixer thing, and she's putting different inks and making different hues, which is really fun. There's some black and gray artists that use black inks that are already pre-diluted, so you have very specific gray washes. You have the black, and then you have 75%, 50%, 25%. And that will give you a really smooth transition, and it's pretty infallible as far as touching up that tattoo, because you're getting that same. So there's a lot of technicalities. Sorry, I'm trying to make this a concise response, but
no, that's good.
With inks, there's so
we could
much
probably
that
have a
goes
whole
into it.
like
Yeah,
session.
whole session on
it gives
just
people
the
a good
eggs.
idea of like obviously, especially there are probably some people dabbling at home, and
Yeah.
Amazon's not where you would recommend going, but getting it from a true supplier. But then also sounds like there's freedom, right? You can customize it. I mean, I hate to make this analogy, but it almost reminds me like you see people like looking at hair coloring and like they're mixing them, or you making them unique to the patient,
Yes.
or to the client, like they're making it unique to that person.
Yeah.
You still have that freedom because you might be matching, maybe it's a tattoo that was done somewhere else in a different
Correct.
color, different time, or
Correct.
you don't know what ink that was, and you're trying to really get that color to be the same. So it's nice to have that artistic freedom.
That, and I actually learned a little trick from a coworker, Jess. She was showing me that when she has a client and she does a consult for a bigger maybe color piece, she'll do a little test somewhere on the skin. I think this client that she had was pretty tattooed already, so it wasn't, the stakes weren't super high as far as this goes, but she would do each color that she would maybe use in the tattoo and make her come back in 2 months and see how they heal. Yeah. Because you know this. Yeah. Skin's different on everybody.
Yeah. I can imagine too with skin tone, and if you have more melanin enriched skin and you're trying to get the color perfect, you have to take that into account and see how it's going to look.
You wouldn't want to use yellow on someone that's really dark because it's pain for no reason. It's not really, it's not going to show up as rich. I mean, you can, of course, if that's what the client wants. But I would probably try to talk them into maybe a darker orange or something. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, you have to take a lot of things
because you're looking
into
at
account.
your palette, and your palettes are obviously different. Depending upon the different skin tones that we all have.
Exactly. Yes.
Go do that one.
Sorry, that one was fun.
That was good. No. So, all right. One of my staff people were probably definitely coming back. They're going to get a tattoo. They're going to want to know what do they do to prepare their skin, and then what's the aftercare. So I was going to have you kind of just briefly go over that.
Yes, great question. So, like I said earlier, tattoos do hurt, but I do permit my clients to use a topical numbing. Typically, it's just lidocaine. It's just 5% lidocaine. I think there are some targeted, this is specifically for tattoos, but I'm pretty sure they're all basically the same thing. I just recommend putting it on 30 minutes before your tattoo and letting it kind of soak. And then when you come in, I'm going to, let me back up. Preparation that you can do, stay hydrated, moisturize your skin, exfoliate your skin. We want it to be nice and smooth and ready to rock the day of.
Even day of, you can moisturize it, and it's okay. Good to know. Okay.
So you come in, we're going to clean your skin. I use a green soap and sometimes an alcohol solution as well. We shave you up. We put the stencil transfer on, put the stencil on. Sometimes I do have clients that are first-time tattoo getters, and I always am just calm, and I'll say, we'll just do a little, tiny little line just so you can see what you're getting yourself into.
Have you had anyone stop once you got the first line?
No.
Okay.
No. Because every time they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
That's so bad.
Good, yeah. But I think just getting that first, just knowing that there is the option to stop if you're uncomfortable, relaxes people immediately. Yeah. And then, because they feel more in control. So I'll do that. We chat, do the tattoo. Afterwards, I do have a little aftercare sheet that I give to my clients, along with a little thing of ointment that I recommend using, and a little piece of candy, always, for the blood sugar. So I'll typically use a second skin, a Sanoderm or a Tegaderm. We dry it off, we put on the second skin. I recommend leaving it on 3 to 5 days, somewhere in there. It's waterproof, you can go swimming, you can do whatever. I still typically don't recommend exercise, just because I've exercised with the Sanoderm on and it gave me horrible heat rash and it was itchy and it was uncomfortable. So I say, take it easy, maybe just go on a walk. That's it. Nothing too physical. And then after you take that off, which I always recommend taking it off in the shower because the hot water loosens it up because it's sticky stuff. You've probably used it. Oh yeah. So take it off in the shower, and then it's pretty intuitive after that. You're trying to keep it clean. That's the number one thing. We're not letting our pets touch it. We're not letting our kids grab it. We're keeping it clean. A really thin layer of either Aquaphor or vitamin A and D ointment. Okay. Real thin layer because you still want it to breathe. Yeah. Because it needs to breathe in order to heal. I say do that for 10 days. Okay. You're going to go through maybe a little bit of a peeling and an itching process, which is normal. And then after that, it should be healed. It depends on what you get as well. I do more fine line stuff. So my tattoos tend to heal a little bit quicker compared to someone that's color packing.
Mm-hmm.
Those could take up to a month to heal.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, do you have to keep it out of the sun, do you recommend?
Oh,
or?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Keep it out of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll hurt if you are in the sun with a fresh tattoo. You'll feel it because the skin's raw. Your skin will tell you, get me out of the sun. But then for the longevity of your tattoo, always wear sunblock, and which you should anyways. Right?
Exactly. Always wear sunscreen. You heard it.
And keeping it moisturized.
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Well, I mean, so I think when people hear that, it's pretty easy to take care of. A few little things you got to do. I think people will be reassured by the numbing for sure, because I think a lot of people think that's like not even an option. Yeah. But one of the things too I wanted you to kind of end with in our last few minutes is I wanted to hear about like a great tattoo story. So doing skin checks, I see tattoos all the time, and unique places, unique things you wouldn't expect, from prison tattoos. It's amateur to something that's like totally elaborate. I had a patient, you know, that had this very elaborate design on their body, and I was just wowed by it. Yes. The artistry and the talent. What is your favorite, like, or most inspiring tattoo story that you can think of?
Sure. Well, I have so many amazing clients that have me do so many amazing tattoos on them. Obviously, any sort of memorial tattoo is incredible. Any sort of scar cover-up is incredible. But my favorite tattoo story was a few years ago. I had a girl reach out to me, and she has a daughter that had a liver transplant when she was 6 months old. So her and her sister wanted to come in, and they wanted to get matching tattoos of her scar in the shape of a flower. So they came into the shop, and we were really hitting it off. We were talking, and the one sister was like, "Are you single?" Because we have a brother, and we think that you'd really like him. And we went and got dinner, and we're getting married this year.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations! That's fantastic. I didn't even know this. Like, that's like utter surprise. Look what tattooing can do and bring people together.
I know, but that's him right there.
Aww.
But he's super tatted, and I looked at his Instagram, and I was like, yeah, I'm single.
Let's go. That's awesome.
So yeah.
So wait, will you ever tattoo him? Is that
allowed?
Yeah,
I've tattooed him.
I didn't know, because that is the permanence factor.
Right.
Rings, we do real rings. We do tattoo rings. What will you do?
I will probably I do have my knuckles tattooed already, but I'll probably get like a heart or something on my ring finger.
That's what I was curious, because I have a couple. They're like, I got to do something. But that's amazing.
I know, isn't that great?
But I think that's the beauty of tattooing. You know, it has come a long way from having the stigma and sort of being socially unacceptable. And you're right, that evolution of tattooing has really occurred over time. And I'm sure our listeners have really enjoyed learning more about tattooing, because there's so much, even as a dermatologist, that I don't even know, and I love hearing the other side. So I want to thank you, Morgan, so much.
Of course, thank you so much for having me on.
And stay tuned for the next episode of Derm-It Trotter. Don't swear about skincare.